We have this from WEAR News, ABC3. Former congressional candidate Rebecca Jones' son arrested in Santa Rosa County. This is a Democrat. She was like this fake whistleblower, I guess. I don't know most of the details. It's been a while. But she ran as a Democrat. She is now accusing, what did she say? Ron DeSantis kidnapped her son. The true story is that, let me just, we'll jump over here.
Ron DeSantis kidnapped her son.
The government of Florida kidnapped her son, yeah.
Oh, the governor of Florida. So here's a tweet from the Miami Herald. 13-year-old son of Rebecca Jones, whistleblower who clashed with DeSantis, arrested over memes. Memes. Here's what Community Notes added. An incident report released Thursday afternoon by the Santa Rosa Sheriff's Office allege that the 13-year-old made repeated threats to shoot up Holly Navarre Middle School and to stab students who angered him. He also talked about being on antidepressants that weren't working. So that's why he got arrested. Right now, this Rebecca Jones woman, she's blocked me, by the way. She is posting up a storm claiming that, she said, 2 weeks later, bringing us to early today, an officer told me the state issued a warrant for my son's arrest for digital threats of terrorism. I asked on whose orders. The officer said it was the state. They aren't letting him come home tonight. They kidnapped my son. No, it's called arrested, lady. And now she's got a whole bunch of Democrats and leftists being like, this is Ron DeSantis. He's a fascist.
So the Miami Herald suggested that he was arrested for a political statement, right?
For memes.
Yeah.
For memes.
When in fact it was terroristic threats online, allegedly.
Yeah, but when I looked this up, the Pensacola News Journal was the one right under it, and they're like, that's what she's claiming, but let's talk about what actually happened. They have like a list of his statements that he made.
So this is a person, Rebecca Jones, she's the one who accused DeSantis of hiding COVID numbers, is that right? Yeah.
Hey, these are red flag laws. Why is this lady complaining? Her kid got red flagged, baby, and the cops came and arrested him. This is exactly what Democrats have been asking for.
Why wasn't she concerned about her son's death threats?
Because she's evil. These people are evil. Bro.
It was a rhetorical question.
No, but there's an answer. Because we talk about this so often when I point out, here is a woman who knows full well what her son did.
Right.
She is capitalizing off of the fact that her son is reported to have threatened to murder classmates, and she's using it for political power. She tweeted before, I'm getting out of Florida or something like this, and then she never did. Now, why would she say such a thing and then not follow through? Oh, because they're liars. Because she's lying. Then when her son gets arrested because the family is clearly unwell, she says they kidnapped my son. Mm-hmm. And she's got followers who are eating it up, and she's using this stuff for political gain.
Well, I hope her son gets a lawyer that represents his interests in a way that's better than his mother's doing.
Yeah. There's some reports that he was being homeschooled at the time of his arrest, which, like, to me sometimes implies that kids are being homeschooled for other issues. They're being kept from school.
I'd like to just point out Jazz Jennings' mother and that viral video. Did you see the viral video where Jazz's mother says she wakes up Jazz in the middle of the night with the dilator and lubricates it and says, if you don't stick this in, I will? So the point here is,
thank God I've missed that.
The degree to which these people are willing to go to cause human suffering, if it empowers them in some way, is terrifying. And right now you have a woman whose son is in jail for making terroristic threats. So he is charged and reported. And she's using this for personal gain. Instead of saying, what's going on between me and my family is personal and private, and I'd like to keep it that way, she rushes to social media and says, help, help, they kidnapped my son. Clearly a lie, but she's doing it for political power.
And is it that the son, the heavyset person in that picture?
No, that's the images you showed.
I think that's Boogie.
Oh,
yeah. A YouTuber.
Boogie
2988, is that Boogie?
Yeah.
I think that's Boogie.
I can't tell.
No,
he's lost weight. If that was
Boogie
has not lost weight.
Yeah, I think that's the son right
lost
there.
a little weight.
Oh, that's the son. Yeah.
And
I
she's
think
saying she got threats. She was worried about her husband and daughter's safety. She didn't send them out of the state.
Yeah, they'd flee. It's just all lies. It's all lies. It's all they do.
Also, it makes me sad for her kid, right? Like, if this is how she's responding, my kid's being unfairly kidnapped by the government. Like, if this kid really does have some sort of issue, apparently his parents are not taking it as seriously as they should. They would rather point the finger at the Florida government, I guess.
I was when I started making internet videos in 2006, it was new. And I was like, wow, I'm becoming a cult leader. This is very dangerous. I don't want to be this. I don't want this power. This could easily corrupt me and make me tell people to do something and destroy the entire system. I can't. Right. So I put it down because it wasn't right. But the only problem is all these other people are now picking it up and doing it, and they're not ethical.
You recognize that people were paying attention to what you said in a way that you didn't really want them to.
They would yell my name instead of the things I was talking about.
Right.
But it's like, if I don't do it, someone else is going to do it. And I don't trust these other weird, like, no offense, lady, I don't know you, Rebecca, but
she's weird. She's
obviously evil. Acknowledge your kid's problem. If he was threatening his classmates, acknowledge it.
Apparently, I saw messages where he said he was placed on antidepressants, but they weren't working. Clearly, this kid is unwell. I feel bad for him, but man, I can't even read what he said. I don't even think we can pull it up. If I show this, YouTube's going to freak out.
It takes me back to the same solution every time we talk about this kind of stuff, is that don't be reactionary. Well, I mean, it's okay to talk about crazy stuff that happens, but if you're just constantly reacting to the bad stuff, you need to create the good stuff. That's the answer. You need to become the famous one. You need to be the one. I'm talking to myself.
That's what these people think.
Everyone's thinking it right now, and it is a culture war to seize power.
Well, and when you see politicians embrace a mass shooter, talk about a contagion. The other folks look at that and say, well, I can get similar positive feedback if I go and murder people. These are dangerous positions for...
Look at John Brown.
Yeah.
The story of John Brown is not a good one. I mean, look, slavery was wrong.
Oh, John Brown.
No one questions
I thought you meant John Brown, something happened just now. But
no,
you're
John
talking
Brown.
about history, John Brown.
Went to Kansas with his kids and just started murdering people. John Brown walked up to a guy and shot him in the face. I mean, look, I get it. There are bad things. There are evil things. But it's like, I don't know, man. There are questions about how we handle the problems of greater society. And there is an interesting question about, was John Brown right to just walk up to people? I think the answer is freeing slaves without killing a bunch of people for the sake of killing them is probably the right way to go about things. This was before the war. This was before an attempt to end it. What we're seeing here is the next degree. These people who are planning these things, if this breaks into civil war, they're already martyring these people. They stood in the Tennessee legislature and they all stood there silently holding up 7 fingers in some kind of protest symbol like Hunger Games, representing that the shooter themselves was a victim. That is scary.
Yeah, yeah. And the irony is he was a victim of them.
Yeah, victim of something for sure, like the lack of parental oversight,
I mean, it took 12 hours for me to even figure out whether he was a he or a she. I mean, that's how crazed our media was, that they couldn't tell us with a straight way, the gender, the actual gender, biologic of the murderer.
The sex.
Whatever the language.
Straight up.
I don't even know what word I'm supposed to say.
Sex.
What word am I supposed to say?
Yeah, well, you could be one sex and a different gender.
But the point was, everyone is so in fear of this transgender extremism, you can't even get the who, what, when, and why reporting for hours.
Well, it's a fear of far left terrorism. That's just plain and simple. This is what I've been saying.
I mean, they talk about the Islamists threatening and curtailing free speech in Europe by murdering people who publish the wrong thing.
Who was it recently on
scientist?
It was
Richard
Dawkins.
Yeah,
Dawkins was being interviewed by was it Piers
Morgan? This was nuts.
And he says, "Can you talk about Salman Rushdie?" And he goes, and he's like, well, "You don't want to talk about it?" And he goes, and then he's like, are you worried about a backlash?" And he goes, "I don't want to talk about it. I should have made that clear."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, that's sad, isn't it?" And he's like, "I can't."
Ask J.K. Rowling how she's doing in terms of threats and stuff.
But
the point is, I can't imagine her security bills.
There's got to be a way to talk about it with empathy without saying I'm on that side. You don't have to take sides. Empathy doesn't mean that you believe it's right or that you agree with it. It just means you understand. And I think there's a way. But it's hard to empathize with people that are on psychotropics because they're not. It's hard. It's hard. It's not impossible, but it's hard.
Well, they don't want us to empathize. I mean, there's no a person of good faith who isn't concerned about someone who feels so crazed about their body that they would mutilate it or do these radical procedures. No one thinks, well, it's good you feel that way. The question is, how is it we treat it? Do we help them, or do we, further that extremism or that unhealthy approach?
Matt Walsh broke it down masterfully in that recent college talk he gave, where he asked a person to explain how they knew they were a woman, and the person just said, because other trans people said they felt similarly to me. And he said, well, that's how trans people feel, but not women. Right. And the person did not know or ask how women actually felt. What they were actually saying is that it's kind of sad. The person just said that they didn't fit in, and they were trying to find a community to fit into, and they did.
And she was getting, or he or she was getting ratified by her friends, said you're a girl. And Walsh is like, of course they're going to be nice to you. They're your friends.
Yeah.
And, in my view, friends help you, not allow you to kind of go down these paths that are so terrible in the end.
If there was somebody who was anorexic and you don't tell them and get them help, you're a bad person.
Dude, I used to think if people changed their name, I'd be like, what's up, fake guy? Yeah, you're going to go with a fake name now? You got a costume on? Like if you wore a beanie, I'd be like, fake. I don't even like nothing unless it's pure real, it's fake. And then transgender came along and I'm like, fake. But then I realized that's not the way, like I talked to Michael Malice, he's like, it's not that big of a deal. You can have, because I'm like, what's up with your fake name? And he was like, it's not, dude, it's not that big of a deal.
Fake name.
Yeah. And, I don't know. I was smoking a lot of weed and I was like, if it's not exactly real aligned with God, then it is fake and needs to be flushed. But I think there's more of a middle road. No one's real all the time. We have clothing on. We're not like in the buff because that's real. I
don't see how wearing clothes is fake. Like
yeah,
we wear
exactly.
clothes to protect ourselves from like the weather.
But like people wear lipstick and it's like,
yeah, that's fake.
What's makeup? I was so anti-makeup. I was just anything that's not purely who you are was pissing me off.
Lipstick is simulating ovulation, isn't it?
Probably.
Yeah. You're like, and the same thing with blush. It's like to show that you are like,
living in that reality where I was so anti-fake was like, it was antisocial. I couldn't, my friends were like, I don't want to be around it. I'm like, you can't lie to her. You need to tell her that you slept around with, and he's like, Ian, I don't even want you in my life because I'm not going to tell my girlfriend I cheated on her. I'm like,
you're like
well,
an atomic bomb in people's relationships.
Honesty, truth. Yes. I was
think
obsessed.
You're right that like honesty and truth are valuable, and especially in friendship, you need to have an ability to speak honestly with people, right? And I think that's what's the difference between people who feel as though they are not accepted going online and thinking that they are getting an honest reaction when they're actually counting how many likes they get or how many views their video gets. I think those are ways to trick your brain into having a dopamine reaction, but it's very different than if you had a friend who was like, well, I want you to be happy, but I'm concerned. I want you to know that like you don't need to contort yourself to be something you're not. Like, let's work on your self-esteem otherwise. I think it's much easier and sort of less terrifying to seek gratification through social media, which isn't a completely honest form of friendship. You know what I mean?
Well, Dylan Mulvaney, my guess is he has a little bit of talent there somewhere.
I disagree.
There's something that he's able, he would, if he was channeling it directly, he might be successful in a way that would be, in my view, appropriate. But there's this crazed approach. And, people are going to be, they're going to do their own thing. That's fine. But stay away from our kids. Don't ask us to ratify it. And don't create entire public policies around it. I mean, someone was telling me the other day that a huge percentage of transgender surgeries are through the military. So, I mean, what's happening in our country? That it's, and the numbers were such that one could conclude that people were only joining the military to get the benefit of the surgery.
Is it just people in the military, or is it also their dependents? Because there have been a couple like high-profile cases of military families.
Well, that's a fair question. But the point was the military is funding, and I don't have the exact number in front of me, a substantial portion of transgender surgeries annually in the United States.
It's wild.
I'm glad you brought up Dylan because I had that same thought earlier when you guys were talking that he's immensely talented, but I feel like it's directed.
What is this? No,
I didn't say he was immensely talented.
I'll say it because that's why he's famous right now is because he's funny to watch to a lot of people. He dances really well. He's a good mover. He has good physical form, but he's gone into this realm of trying to find clicks. That's like, I find it shameful, but I mean, I'm not whatever. But it is. It's like, don't twist things just for views.
Yeah, and you are incorrect. The videos of Dylan's are spastic. Like,
I know. It's like he's not rooted.
It's not coordinated. It's not good movement. It's random shaking, convulsing, and screaming. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.